Hello! Hello, everyone. How you people doing? We have 8 people in the chat. What's up? Hello, John. We're back to animating. Finally. I kind of forgot how to use ClipPaint Studio. It's almost been a month. Привет, привет. Doing good. Can't believe I missed your stream with Jason. No worries. Like, the recording is on his YouTube page. How's your 2021 so far? Okay, where were we? The stream with Jason was super fun. Also, kind of streaming with someone is way easier, honestly, than on your own. Just having another person who can talk from time to time while you're focusing on drawing. Like when you're on your own, it's kind of, you have to manage multiple things at once, which might be tricky at times. Yeah, and especially like also on the stream with Jason, there were lots of people, like 100+ people, which makes the conversation flow a bit more easily, where people ask you questions, and there's always something you can talk about. Here, you kind of have to be I don't know, like entertain everyone and start the conversations yourself, which is definitely not my strongest skill. But it's getting better. Compared to my very first streams, I feel, at least like myself, I feel way more comfortable doing this. I like chatting about random things. But questions definitely help. Hard to talk and focus all the time. Exactly. A bit distracting when you focus on the chat too much. Yeah, on my previous streams, sometimes I feel like I'm just talking for 20 minutes straight. Which is, I think it's still cool, because to me, the point of the live stream is exactly the fact that you can interact with the streamer and the streamer can interact with the audience. So if the streamer isn't answering questions, then you might as well just watch the recording, right? So to me, I feel like that's my job to answer questions. Hi Igor. Is fire your favorite element? It's definitely one of them, and it's kind of basic and like a comfort zone. Okay, I remember now. I wanted to change the final portion of the animation altogether. Hi Marcus. How are you doing? I'm doing great. I had a great rest without any streams. Played some games. I finally played Cyberpunk, so we can talk about that. It's been a while since I've been in one of your streams. It's been a while since I streamed, so everything lines up kind of. Have you seen my my stream with Jason Kaiser last week on his channel? This one was kind of fun. What do you think of Cyberpunk? I don't think it's a great game. To me, I know it just doesn't work. I guess the story is the best part for me, but the game around the story is not worth for me to continue. The world, the gameplay, everything is weird. And sometimes even straight out bad. I also don't like the visuals. Even though it's kind of a highlight of the game. But I think like it's cool to look at the screenshots. But playing the game, like being in this world it doesn't look good. It's hard to focus and it's like there are way too many details, the colors, like everything is all over the place. I think it's a very unfocused look. And it's not necessarily I don't know like whose fault is that. I just think like it lacks the cohesion. Like elements, like characters, environmental stuff, on their own they all look great. But as a whole, to me it's a mess. Hey, Brian. I was going to watch people play it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna watch just the story, because that's the part that I'm actually kind of interested in. I think the world is cool, like the concept of it. But I don't know how much of it is actually the game's achievement, because like it's based on a already existing world, right? But there's a lot of weird stuff, very like unpolished, and the pacing of the game is weird, and like it's anxiety inducing at some points. The constant phone calls, sometimes it's just like absurdly over the top. Information overload. Like fire. Well, yeah, usually I prefer to work with like single color at first, just to organize my shapes and designs. And I feel like, I don't know, black works for me. It's so uneasy to erase the stuff that you already made. I feel it's not working. I want to change it. What is the first step into making this? I kind of started out simple, like with basic shapes. It's pretty much like 2 lines, doing like kind of this shape and animating it, establishing the timing and spacing, and then I started adding like more details and motion inside the motion. I believe the recording of the previous stream is also on YouTube, if you're curious. Also, since I like don't have a specific goal, like a task, it's a lot of just experimenting and watching where straight ahead animation kind of leads me. And I like this approach. It's very relaxing in a way that like you're allowing your hand to figure out how the animation should play out. I'm planning to do a bit more like VFX doodle streams, like I did a couple before that, but probably I haven't done one on YouTube. I did it before YouTube, so think it might be interesting. Where I just doodle random concepts, shapes of VFX without animating them, but just drawing the pretty frames, single frames. I think it's a cool. I don't want to call it exercise because I don't really like this type of practice where you like practice for the sake of practice. But doing this doodles is fun, very relaxing, kind of like a therapy for me. Was that stream a one-time collaboration, or were you thinking of doing others? Assuming you're talking about the stream with Jason. So we haven't decided yet, so I can't really tell for sure. But to me, it seems like we both enjoyed it. But it depends on our personal schedules, because Jason is doing his own streams with VFX Apprentice. So we'll see how it goes. People seem to enjoy it as well, and like there were a lot of people on his stream. It's usually because VFX is such a niche area by default. Like you don't expect a lot of people to join. We had like more than 100 people on watching the stream at the same time, which to me is a huge success, considering like my streams are usually like 20 to 30 people, which is also cool. Like, but having 100 people on stream is super awesome, and everyone is interested in the facts. So like so many similar, at least like in some way, people at the same place is cool. Hey, World.Tron. How's it going? Speaking of games, the other game that I played was Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is a completely different game from Cyberpunk. But I enjoyed it a lot. I think like I'm kind of tired of it now. I probably spent about maybe 20 hours in the game, and I feel like I've had enough. But I had a lot of fun playing it. Just casual brain dead shooter that looks and feels like Star Wars, and it's great. I don't think like I was expecting anything more from this than it actually is, so I was kind of satisfied. Some portions of the game were a bit unfair, I guess. The progression system it's not perfect, but it's not terrible at the same time. So, and I believe it was free on Epic Game Store last week. I don't think it's free anymore. So if you haven't tried it, I guess you missed your chance But if you're a fan of Star Wars and you're not looking again for to play like 100 hours in, if you're just looking for some fun for a couple of evenings, I think it's a cool game. Like when I was younger, I would have loved it just because of how it looks and feels and sounds. Maybe we can make a stream together one day as well. I'd have a long list of questions for you. Yeah, we'll see. Like, if you have any specific ideas, just message me somewhere on Twitter or here on YouTube. Can you message on YouTube? Like DM messages? I guess DM is already includes messages. The semester is almost over. Sweet. Did I already ask you what are you studying? Sorry, I don't remember if I already asked. Would you ever do streams with CNCing other CNCing? Commenting and criticizing? I don't know what CNCing means. Other people work. Like effects work you provided by people from your chat. So you can explain how it works and all. Like I don't think at the moment I'm interested in this type of streams. Because I kind of explained it on my previous streams that I'm not a teacher and I'm not really interested in teaching, at least at this time. And the streams for me are just a chance to make animations because I love doing it, and might as well do it with other people and answer some questions. So for me, the main point is actually animating something. If you're interested in like learning, I always try to answer questions. If you have questions, sure, I'll try to answer if I can. But if you're like more specifically is interested in learning, I would suggest The VFX Apprentice by Jason Kaiser or Swirl. I'm not sure if there are any like feedback sessions on your own work. I assume there are, because like Jason has videos on YouTube where he's discussing like other people's work and giving feedback and stuff, so it definitely exists. But here I'm just more focused on drawing and animating and spending time in a good company. But we'll see how it goes in the future. Oops. I'm in high school, so I don't have a major yet. Cool. We have young viewers here. Do you have any plans what you want to study in the future? Like, considering you're on my stream, I would assume you're interested in some type of animation. He actually does a student hangout on Discord where you can throw your work up for feedback from him and the rest of the class. Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, I guess it just reinforces my point. If you're interested in learning, check out Jason's course, VFX Apprentice. I participated in creating one part of it, and there are tons of other awesome VFX artists that also did something for the course, like tutorials and time lapses, this sort of thing. I think it already works better. Like before the final animation, like the projectile, the fireball, I know what this is, but the energy kind of was like the movement was a bit too slow, like when it flies towards the camera, and it felt a bit stiff to me because the arc of the animation was so straight. I think we fixed some of it. I'm wondering what else can we do. I think the other thing I don't really like, that the tip of the projectile, this part, when it moves from here to here, what I'm envisioning that it gets a bit closer to the camera and then goes forward. But what we have here is it's over there already, and it's like all the time it pretty much stays the same place. So I want to try to bring like this part somewhere here, so at first it moves from the camera and then it goes back for the final motion. And we need to figure out how to do it without changing too much of the animation, hopefully. And I forgot where to change the size of my tool. Clip paint is still new for me. Here it is. Does anyone know where this soundtrack is from? The game is quite famous, but the genre is somewhat niche. But you definitely know the IP. Not a slasher. Originally, I believe it was a... I can't hear any music. Oh. That's news to me. Same, no music. What? So I've been streaming in silence for you. I can hear everything, guys. Interesting. Let me make it a bit louder, maybe? Let me know how this works. Huh, we have a weird situation here. Like, there are some people who hear me and the music, and some people who only hear me. Which is kind of a weird situation. Okay, people hear it now. Awesome, then you can play the guessing game with us. This game was originally, I think it was an arcade game first. And it from the Dreamcast generation, right? I think so. It's not JRPG, but it was made by a Japan company. Yes, Bossu is correct. Third Strike, Street Fighter. Awesome. Someone actually knew. And I think it's pretty famous soundtrack, but the genre is kind of niche, fighting games. So I always assume that not a lot of people are familiar with it. But people who are interested in fighting games definitely know, usually, where this soundtrack is from. This game also has one of the best sprite animations ever. And considering that, like, no one pretty much does sprite animation anymore these days, and like, big companies won't be doing it anytime soon, and maybe never. So this might be the game with one of the best sprite animations ever. Like, we probably won't get any better anytime soon. I have played Hotline Miami, yes. We also listened to the soundtrack from Hotline Miami like dozens of times, because it's awesome. And I like the game. I like the first one a bit better, but the second one was good too. I would love to have, for this game, to have a co-op of some sorts. but as far as I know, it doesn't have any. I think the first game was a bit more focused, I guess, in terms of gameplay. It's quite minimalistic in terms of game design. It's very straightforward and simple, not a lot of mechanics, but I think that's what makes it so good. Very focused game design. I think in the second one they tried to spice it up, added a bunch of new characters and new gameplay mechanics. Some of them were fun, some of them weren't working as good, I think. They weren't bad by any means, but just not as perfect. The studio has announced something that might disappoint some fans, and some fans will be happy to see. What do you mean? I haven't heard anything. I don't even know the studio's name. You think there's a chance of us getting the third game? I have no idea. Like, I'm not familiar with the studio, and like, I can see people being tired of making the same thing over and over again. It kind of also places a lot of stress on you when you're making a sequel to an already great game. And everyone expects you to be at least as good as before, and it's not usually, it's not always easy to do. And if you manage to do it twice, like making a third game as good as previous two, it's I think it's very difficult. But at this point, it's not just about the game being good, but like people have expectations, and sometimes even if your game is good, it might not be enough. Like when your previous games kind of ruined your third game by raising the expectations. This looks weird. How much can I cancel? Would be nice to see Hotline Miami 3 as an online game, maybe Battle Royale type of stuff. I don't know. I think there was a lot of similar games, like top-down twin stick shooters that had online before. I think like the single player challenge was what made this game kind of unique. And the style, of course. Yeah, like Counter-Strike 2D, I think that was the name of the fan game. But like, if you think about it, it's very similar. It's pretty much the same gameplay. And I think the beauty of Hotline Miami, the first two, is the game design around this mechanic. So the fun comes from game designers crafting levels for you. And when it's multiplayer and you don't have this control over your situations, the gameplay might not hold up. I'm interested in animation. So far I can't think of anything that I want to do besides animation. Awesome! Do you like character animation or effects animation? Or everything? I guess everything is kind of a way too. There are people who can do everything. I think in Japanese animation, that's kind of the way they're doing things. Like they have, what's it called, Sakuga artists? Like they do everything. Effects, characters. I think that's super awesome. And makes you a great artist when you have knowledge of every aspect of animating. I think in games it's a bit hard to do because like being a VFX artist in games, it's like there's way more than just animating to it. Like a lot of technical knowledge and skills. Shaders. Procedural approaches to effects and all this. So I think it's a bit hard to like be good at everything in video games industry. Where in animation it's like everything is at least like I won't say that it's easier, but at least everything is just like you're drawing frame by frame animation, right? So it's somewhat similar. In video games, a lot of times these are a completely different set of tools. And the only thing that carries over is your artistic taste. Is that the... like, do people say it in English? Maybe there's another word for it. Not sure. Hear the music, this is Third Strike. Correct. Style? No, that's not what I mean. Like artistic vision, I guess. Because the style... like me animating characters and me animating effects, like there's not a lot of style that can carry over. But just an eye for things that look good. You know, like you train it as an artist. like all the time. And I think that what carries over when you switch to a different app or to a different, even like a different field, like you still have to learn specifics of the different, like another job, but you already have something that you can carry over, like you know what kind of looks good. And I think it is somewhat universal across everything. So my major might just be like graphic designing or something like that, but I'm kind of want to do animation on the side of work when I grow up. Although I don't understand animation that well, I just can't seem to understand how the frames should look for it to work well. You'll figure it out. It's practice and experience. But yeah, I have a degree in graphic design. Kind of generic, at least like the way I studied, but like I must say I didn't learn much while studying it, but it helped me in other ways with visas and stuff. For me it was important to have a degree in something. Although I started working almost immediately when I went to university. I guess in Russia we have a slightly different system. So I guess we call universities what you call colleges. I'm not sure. But after school. And I started working almost right away. And most of my experience and knowledge I got from actually working in office. Artistic eye. Artistic vision sounds good, yeah. College and university are different things for us. Okay. I guess it was a university then. I mean, I went to school in Russia, so that might I don't know how can it help you. It doesn't really matter, right? But it was for graphic design degree. Originally, I switched degrees. Like I started out studying physics, and I don't know enough English words to describe this field, but it's more about like energy and like energy stations, this sort of thing. A lot of physics and mathematics. But then I switched. And this was a right decision. Thinking about physics makes me dizzy. I enjoyed it. Kind of. Parts of it. I really liked, I think like in physics there's a area that called mechanics or something like that, where I think it helped me in animation. Understanding the way the energy transfers and the way that just the mechanics of movements, I guess, in general. So I think some of that knowledge actually helped me. Hey Alex, how do you feel like you've gotten good at making shapes? Because every time I sit down to animate, my shapes are god-awful. It's a process. I think like figuring out good shapes is the most difficult part for me as well. And it takes time, and I saw some YouTube videos, I don't remember who it was. It was the concept art YouTuber. I can describe him, maybe someone knows him, but this guy, like, he has a character in his videos where like he has sunshine sunglasses and he has like a cigarette hanging from his lip, and he's kind of, what's the word, mean, but like fake mean. But I think like he has a lot of good points in explaining character art and stuff. Ethan Becker. Sounds about right. I don't remember the name, but like in one of his videos, he was talking about how to develop style. And he had a good exercise. I think, I don't personally like exercise, but maybe some people do, where he suggested picking multiple artists that you like and picking a specific thing of their art that you like. Like with one artist you enjoy their line art, so you focus on line art. The other artist has good colors, so you focus on that. And then you try to like redraw or draw characters, or maybe like not characters if you're drawing effects, but trying to grab the line art style from your favorite artist and the coloring style from another artist. And it forces you to focus on the specifics of other people's art, and I think it forces you to kind of understand why they're doing certain things, and by mimicking you can develop something of your own. And I think it helps with shapes as well. Like, grab an animation or just a concept art of a effect that you think has great shapes and try to make your own. Like, don't just like copy it right one for one, but try to understand some ideas and principles. Like, grab some shape language, because like I have a lot of similar, like I have shapes that I like, and if you look closely you will notice a lot of repeating patterns and shapes in my effects. And I think this is what forms a style as well. Like, when you have your own shapes next to the shapes that you like, you can compare, like, what do you think you like about the reference, like, more than your work. And I guess it just, everything is about analyzing your own work and analyzing in a more like productive way, not just, oh, I don't like it or I like it, but there gotta be definitely specific parts that you don't like, and understanding why you're not liking them and how to improve them. I think what helps you to grow. I want to ask you, do you animate anything other than effects? Because I haven't seen you animate anything else. I haven't animated characters in a long time, but so I'm very rusty and not very experienced, but I used to do it. I wanna do it some more sometime, but right now it's not the main focus. I draw characters, just like still pictures. And I see old ones. If you look for Alex Redfish on DeviantArt, there might be some old ones, really old ones, but like they are not, if I remember correctly, they are not frame by frame animations. I don't think I have frame by frame character animations anywhere online. Yeah, these were from, what's the technique called in English? Twinning? Cutout animation? I have some of these somewhere on DeviantArt probably, but I haven't done it like in years. I read in the Elemental Magic something like the effects animator animate energy. It's still in my mind. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Something that helped me improve is to look at your work as if it were something else's. Like someone you don't know sent you the effect looking for feedback. Yeah, that's an interesting way of analyzing your work. I guess it... I think for me it helps to take some time away from the animation, because I might not see something if I stare at it like for hours. And when I spend some time away from it, it kind of like refreshes your eye, so you can look at it more objectively. And sometimes you can find more mistakes. And other times you can think that, oh, your animation is actually pretty cool. Like there are some works that I did and never posted because I thought that it doesn't look that good. And then like after years I can find the file, the source file, and I look at it, it looks pretty cool. Like I am actually impressed by my old work. And this means that, I don't know, you just weren't objective at the time, or weren't analyzing your work properly. Maybe like subconsciously feeling on what's the word? Unconfident. Is that a word? What's the opposite of confidence? Because it's funny to think that sometimes is confidence what tells you if your art is good or not. And it might not be always accurate. Insecure. Yeah, that sounds better. So we just made 2 frames in twinning Adobe. Kind of, yeah. Like your character is cut into pieces. Like you have for an arm you have a forearm, like this part, shoulder I guess, the hand, and same goes like for other parts. chest, belly, and then you animate them by tweening. But you don't actually draw each frame. I think like people used to do that a lot when the first social network games were a thing, like on Facebook and these type of places, or like early Flash games. They used to do that a lot. Since Spine appeared, Spine and what's the other software? Dragon Bones? I think like tweening cutout animation is kind of disappeared briefly. Not briefly, but is disappearing. And making the tween animation with tools like Spine, which are actually deforming the drawings by creating meshes and moving polygons, is a new cutout animation. Most of the times it looks better, so there's almost no reason for using old school cutout animation anymore. Okay, you know what? I think the base shapes look good enough. Let's move on to adding. Let's color it. And to do that, we have to figure out a way of doing it. What happens if I just use paint bucket tool? Kind of leaves an outline, black outline. For your waterfall animation, what did you do to make it look like the water is actually falling? I need to think about that question. I mean, the pieces are the parts of moving from top to the bottom. I guess that creates the illusion of falling. Потому что в Сан Кости набор анимации целесообразнее с технической точки зрения. Какая экономия места и составление BDS с анимациями для всех на одном скелете. Yeah. I tried Spine, like I did 1 or 2 animations in Spine on my ArtStation and DeviantArt, maybe on Vimeo as well. There's a video, I think it's called like Fighters of the Storm. It's a mock-up of a fighting game with Blizzard characters, and I use Spine to animate these characters. The animation isn't that great, but it was fun using the tool. But the creating of the mesh took so much time. Animation was kind of fast after that. Wait, can you say that again? About the waterfall animation? I guess you have like certain parts of the animation, like holes, and you make them move from top to bottom. That's what creates the falling illusion, I guess. If I understand your question correctly. Like holes? I didn't see any holes. Okay, I'm not sure what waterfall animation we're talking about then. I thought that was from Dungeon Defenders video. The Fires of the Storm you did is so cool. Thank you. I enjoyed it a lot. It was fun to do, like, honestly, the part that I enjoyed a lot, and I wasn't expecting to enjoy it, was figuring out the UI elements. Like, that's not usually what I do. But designing this health bar and meters, all this stuff, it was fun. How do I make it alpha lock? Is this it? Okay, yes. This is very awesome, I love it. Thank you. I'm a fan of fighting games, a long-time fan of fighting games. And actually working on a fighting game right now is awesome. It's a dream come true. I think League of Legends has an awesome roster of characters. That should work great in a fighting game setting. Seems like my internet is kind of slow today. Let me try fixing it. I'll turn off my camera for a moment and I'll be right back. Okay, that should be a little bit better. I forgot to plug my Ethernet cable in. And Wi-Fi is laggy sometimes. I was talking about the loop one has like a bunch of water animations playing in the same canvas. I mean, if you want stuff to look like it's falling, you think with the water, you don't want to move, like, let's say you have a shape and it's falling. Because water isn't a solid like object, it's not, I don't know, it's not a brick. So some parts of water are actually can drag behind. So when the water falls, like a water mass, it changes its shapes. Like some parts of it are dragging behind, so it like pieces of water are moving at different velocity. And I think that what sells the fact that it's actually water and not a solid form. So you want to have different pieces of water falling and moving at the different velocities. But at the same time, you want to preserve the mass. Like, you don't want to, like, because the mass of the water is still the same, it just changes shape. You want to try to be consistent with the overall volume. I'm sorry if you have already answered this, but are you still working on your iPad in Clip Studio, or are you working on a desktop screen tablet? I'm working on an iPad. I like the feel of the iPad a bit more than Cintiq's. I think the response you get from an iPad is a bit better than on Cintiq, at least like this is in my experience. The way the sensitivities, like the pressure sensitivity feels, the parallax effect is like, it's non-existent almost. Hello, the Skilled Roy. How are you doing? Does Clip Studio still use the subscription model for the iPad app? That's the only thing that turned me off about it. It does, yes. And not a fan of that myself. But what you gonna do? I just liked Clip Paint. Recreate is very cheap on an iPad, but it's a bit limited in terms of what it can do. I still love it, like, for quick sketches, single color sketches. I think it's awesome. When it gets to polishing face, that's where Procreate kind of shows the lack of functions and tools. But Clip Paint, theoretically, I haven't worked in it that much yet, just a couple streams. I haven't touched it in my spare time as well. So, but so far it looks very promising. Like, it has all the features of Photoshop and even more. But the timeline is a bit better than compared to Photoshop, in my opinion. It reminds me a bit of Animate, and I think Animate has a great timeline. Hi, Sophia. See ya, World of Tron. Yeah, we're animating kind of fire. I think like it can be anything really. It's just shapes. It moves a bit weird now. Did I change something accidentally? I think it's good now. Sometimes it's just like lagging. Some kind of a glitch, I think. Oh. Yes, Veterans, I worked on Bell Chasers. It was a super fun project, and this was my introduction to working in 3D for effects. Before that, I only did like 2D flipbooks. It's cool that you enjoyed the game. It's not my favorite genre, so I really enjoyed the artwork, the look of the game. In terms of gameplay, like, not my favorite game. But yeah, it was super cool to work with Geomed as well. Like, since his artwork was a huge inspiration for me for years. Actually, like, being able to work with him was awesome. Turn-based RPG is not everyone's cup of tea, understand? Yeah, I like tactical turn-based RPGs. Like Fallout or this type of games. One of my favorite games ever is Silent Storm. I don't know if you ever played it. It's like from 2000s. It's made by a Russian company, so it might not be as well known outside of Russia, but I think people know about it. But it's an awesome turn-based tactical World War II, like alternative history World War II, where like they had some mechs in there and like laser weapons. I think that was an awesome game. It has one of the best destructible environments in games. I think to this day, like, I love XCOM, but the most recent games, they have some level of destructible environments, but it's nothing compared to Silent Storm. I'm curious why people aren't doing this anymore. I think destructible environments in general in games are not as popular anymore. Like, even Battlefield games, which were known for destructible environments, kind of tone it down a lot in the recent titles. Like, I definitely think there are downsides to destructible environments if they are done incorrectly. Where in Battlefield, a lot of times there were situations where the map by the end of the game, of the match, is just like an empty field because all the buildings are destroyed, and it gets like a bit boring to play. But I think it's fixable. Like make some buildings non-destructible, or like make the buildings leave some kind of undestructible carcasses. Basically like leave something on the map that you can use as geometry for the level. But yeah, I don't know why games aren't doing this anymore. I see it on Steam, I might check it out. Sure, I think it might have problems working on like new systems. But if it works, I think it's cool to see it in action, even if you won't be like playing through it. Just watching it on YouTube to see the level of destructibility. Is that a word? Это конечный цвет или так просто удобней? Someone asked if that's the final color, or is it just more comfortable to work this way. I like adjusting the color in the very end, so right now I'm moving towards actually coloring it, but I'm seeing like some weird shapes here and there. That's why I'm stopping to like tweak it a bit. But yeah, I want to make it like add filters, glows. Everything like that. Let's change the background color as well. Something darker. And I think I will add... How do I do that? Okay. The point of, I guess, when I started out this animation was to just check out Clip Paint Studio, because it's my first time working it. So I think to fully experience the pipeline, I need to add secondary colors, secondary shapes inside of this shape, to see how this workflow works for me. It's really expensive to have it in the game. The destructible environments? I mean, sure, but games already had that before. Like Battlefield series, once again, I think it looked good as well. So they managed to make it work somehow. I don't know, maybe people weren't impressed by it anymore. I'm really not sure. I would love to play a modern Battlefield game with modern destructible environments. Oops. Just to me, it adds a whole new experience. it almost like creates a different new subgenre of games. Like we have first-person shooters, and we have first-person shooters with destructible environments, because it adds so much. Mercenaries, is that the game we're talking about? I was talking about, I guess, the destructible environments in general. I started out by describing the game called Silent Storm. It's a turn-based tactical RPG game, and it had awesome destructible environments. Like you can make holes in walls. And then I was talking about Battlefield and the fact that games stopped doing destructible environments, and even recent Battlefields are not doing it, at least not at the same level than before, and I'm wondering why. I never played Mercenaries myself, but I know what you're talking about. I've seen this game before. Like, there are some games, I guess, that are focused on that, like Just Cause series. But it's very simple the way they're doing it in that game. That image 16 on trees is risky. There are tons of cool details to stop it for that long. At the same time, it's so close to the camera, so it should be on once, or at least twos. What do you think? Let's see. This one, I assume. I think it's fine. Or maybe this one. It's kind of a new thing for me, like making frame 28. Okay, this one. I'm not used to do this kind of thing, and it's an experiment. I was studying a lot of animations, and sometimes it seems like they don't care about the logic, and they're just focusing on cool shapes. And I'm trying to understand the logic behind it, like the reasons why they're doing it. And my understanding is that I want to have like a certain keyframes that I want to keep on the screen a bit longer, so the viewer have enough time to catch up with what's happening. If I'm successful or not, I don't know. but I kind of like it on 3s here. Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I think like it makes total sense. I think this time I'm gonna keep it. To me, it's also like there's a rhythm to the animation. And sometimes it feels like you care about it a bit more than the logic of physics. And it's once again like studying anime. Sometimes like even the things that are purely physical, like water splash. Like with fire you can kind of bend it in many directions because it's not like a physical object that lives in the space, or at least I know it lives in the world, but I know what fire is. But it doesn't have like a mass. But even with water in anime, sometimes they just do whatever they want with shapes. They stay in the air for a long time, then they start falling, then they like stop mid-air, once again like slow down in the air, and it still looks good. And in my opinion, much better than a lot of Western like animation. Yeah, and it's something that I'm not fully understanding yet. But I'm doing my best. Have you used any control devices for animation? The wheel on X Pen tablets is very useful for me at flipping. No, I'm using an iPad. So I have this pen. It doesn't have any buttons. But I can double tap it to switch from pencil to eraser, which is cool. What do you mean by useful for me at flipping? Flipping what? Do you know what this song is from, Vedrand? I love this soundtrack a lot. Is it possible to make high-quality effects animations such as this in free animating apps such as Pencil 2D and Blender? I haven't tried Pencil 2D, or I haven't animated anything in Blender. I would say yes. Like there might be some workflow issues with like adding glows or like post effects. Maybe, I'm not sure. But like all I'm using is a pen tool, just one brush, and an eraser. It's more important to have a good timeline for me. Sounds like MVC2, but I'm not sure. You are wrong. It's more recent. You'll figure out it with later tracks. I think this one might be not as obvious, but some of the character tracks you will recognize for sure. Yes, Street Fighter V. I love what they done with like old tracks, old character tracks. The way they rearranged them, freshened them up. I guess because we're on this frame for such a long time, 3 frames, we need to make sure to make it actually look good. I think it's not that great looking. Very symmetric. Well, not symmetric, but or maybe symmetric. Like this part here. Let me grab another color. This part here. And this part over here. They're very similar in terms of size and mass. And I think it looks a bit boring. And I want to make it uneven somehow. Флиппинг — это когда прокручиваешь анимацию вручную на произвольной скорости туда-сюда. Я использую вторую руку на колесике. О, прикольно. Ну, я на iPad. Ну да, здесь... Ну, забавно, что он, кстати, я пальцем не могу... флипить, видимо. Только стилусом. Я всегда очень плох с всякими хоткиями, фишками, использованием кнопок. Не очень оптимизирую свой процесс. Привет, Алекс, круто получается. Подскажи, как ты обучался анимации, я имею в виду. Ты понимаешь на английском? Я стараюсь на английском общаться. Если не очень, то я на русском объясню, ничего страшного. Да, рассказывай. Okay, someone asked in the chat how I learned doing VFX, I guess. And my story in animation is very long. I think I first started animating around 15 years ago. Which sounds like a lot. But when I was at school, in our computer class, I guess, we were actually learning Macromedia Flash because it was the very popular software at the time with the rise of Flash cartoons on the internet. And this was my introduction to animating, like in digital. I had a pirated copy of Macromedia Flash back at home. And I didn't know anything about animation. So, and the internet at the time was not as developed. Basically, I didn't have any internet at home, probably. All the Flash cartoons were mainly distributed on like floppy disks. But Macromedia Flash was straightforward enough. Just by trying things out, kind of figured out how to like do simple animations. At least I understood the principle of it. The principle of working with the software. The animations were quite terrible. And I was really inspired by stick figures, stickman fights, animations. So I did a lot of those. And animating effects like a lot of blood is what I was somehow good at. So I spent a bit more time doing effects than character animations. After school, I kind of stopped doing animations because I went to study physics. And after I got kicked out from the university, I finally decided to try making art my job. And my very first job, I worked on a game for my very first artistic job, I guess. It was a company where I worked on a game for social networks. And it was a startup, so usually how it works is that artists are doing everything. I mean, everything artistically on these type of companies. So I was doing character art, character animation, environmental art. And I was posting my works on DeviantArt. And people liked my VFX works a bit more than my character animations. And I also was enjoying animating effects a lot. And then I started to receive offers specifically for VFX animations. My very first one was for actually a Japanese company for a mobile game. It was similar to Pokemon gameplay, but you were catching like dragons. I think it was called like Dragon Island or something like that. Or Monster Island. So I guess like, yeah, the offers, the job offers were driving me towards effects a lot. And after my first VFX job, it was just a constant stream of job offers, so I guess I never really thought about where I'm going. I was just going. And in terms of learning, it's just references, mostly. There was a course by Adam Phillips, Byte Course Academy, like for VFX. I only did one lesson from it. I love doing it, but that's where I kind of realized that I'm not a course person. I don't know, I just can't learn from courses. And to this day, it's references. You find something that you like, how it looks, and you analyze it, trying to understand the principles and the logic behind it. That's it. I guess that's a good way to plug in Jason Kyler's VFX course, VFX Apprentice. If you're looking to learn VFX, check it out. I participated in creation of this course, and people who took it seems to be very satisfied. Спасибо, Алекс уже купил. Эх, не успел я свою ссылку вставить, с которой мне что-то капает. Я вообще очень плох с этим. У меня есть ссылка, за которой мне процент от курса капает. Я ее, по-моему, еще не запостил нигде ни разу. Правда, он слишком блажен, надоедает немного. Ну вот у меня с курсами со всеми тоже так же. Мне они все очень быстро надоедают. Тут уже нужно каждому искать, как кому удобнее учиться. There's always a point to the stream where I feel like I've been doing the same thing for an hour, where I start like talking to the chat, answering questions, and kind of doing minor adjustments to the animation, but it feels like we've been looking at this loop for an hour at least. It's an awesome resource and way cheaper than college if you want to do VFX stuff. I think the benefits of online courses is the way that usually they are more, what's the word for it? Like universities, like a lot of info might be outdated just because of the way the program is structured. And with online courses, you are allowed to adjust whenever you want. So you can make updates way more frequently. And universities, a lot of times, especially in video games industry, it's very hard to catch up with the current tech, because in games it changes so frequently compared to animation. Like the software in animation changes as well, but you're not relying on the software that much. And video games is very tech oriented, so you gotta be on point with current tools and features and engines and whatever. And with YouTube, honestly, it's a bit hard to develop your skills when you're like from intermediate to advanced, because like obviously more like beginners, and there's way more beginners information on YouTube, but I think it's enough to, at least for me, the way I'm learning, to understand the basics and then focus on references. When you say references, do you mean art by other animators or artists, or in real life? If it's real life, how do you break something complex like fire into simpler parts? I used to study a lot of real life slow motion animations to understand the physics aspect of effects, and I think it's similar to what I was describing before, the video by Ethan Becker, about how to develop style. And with animation, like you focus on the mechanics and physics when you're using real life references, and you focusing on different things when you're using like different artists' animation. You're choosing what you want to get from these references. So you can study the shape language of one artist and the physics, the motion, the mechanics of real life references. Or you can study shape language for different artists and then try to apply them to a real life drawings, real life references. Usually it's simplification of forms is what you're trying to do. If you ever tried gesture drawing for like characters, I think there's a lot in common with stylizing real life objects. Like if you have a fire, realistic fire, you try to kind of grab the main gesture of it and then draw the rest parts based on this gesture. Okay, enough of that. Let's move on to the second layer. I think it's this. How do I do that? It wasn't it. Or was it? No. I want to have a separate folder. Okay, this button. The downside of using clip-aid on an iPad is that I don't have a... I'm blanking. Tooltips? Like when you hover your mouse over a button, you get a tooltip of what it does. On an iPad, I don't have that. So I just clicking randomly until I get what I want. Дай ссылочку, с которой тебе капает. Я выложу потом в ВК. У меня даже нет под рукой. Если вам курс интересен, вы не ждите мои ссылки, вы... Это все мелочи. Берите, не стесняйтесь. I don't have any references for this one. This one is straight out of my head. But I should get some references. Usually when I want to come up with something new and unfamiliar to me, that's when I get references. I think the purpose of this particular animation was to... What did this do? Oh, okay. Is to figure out Clip Paint Studio. And I'm focusing on figuring out the tool. I guess doing two things at once might be a bit too much. I just want to focus on learning the app for now. I think, speaking of references, I had this idea that I thought might be a cool idea for the stream, is grabbing a reference effect that I like and trying to replicate it. Not to copy it, but kind of find something that I like in this effect. But doing it on stream. I never done it live, so if that's something that sounds like fun to you, let me know. В целом, если понимаешь физику огня, например, то референции не нужны, так? I think you need the references when you want to change something in your work. If you want to improve in a way, or if you want to like switch your style to something different, I think that's when you want to use references. If you're comfortable with what you're doing, like with the way you're animating, you can for sure just do this all the time without any references at all, and you will still improve probably. I think, like, to me, working with references is just a bit more deliberate growth. Like when you're just practicing, like when you're doing what you know how to do over and over again, it's kind of like a passive growth. And usually for me, like the most noticeable growth is when I actually using references, and like when I'm challenged by the project where I need to, like when I was animating for Into the Spider-Verse, like I never done a feature movie before, so my approach for effects was a bit different than for games. And I think I improved a lot during this project just because I was trying to do something different, and I used lots of references to improve my work. And in my head, that's how the progress looks. I don't think it's a steady line up, but rather like sudden bursts of growth, artistic growth, and then like very slow areas, or maybe even flat. To me, it sounds healthy, because once again, for me at least, to grow and improve on myself, I have to specifically pay attention and make it my goal. And it requires a lot of energy, and like I can't do it every time. Sometimes I'm just doing what I know how to do already, and in my head it makes sense because you learn something new, then I spend some time doing it to solidify it, make yourself comfortable with this new knowledge. But yeah, to me the growth is very like it's a bursts of improvement from time to time. Cool, everyone seems to be enjoying the idea of working with the references, so we'll see what we can do. I think this animation will be the last one for the fire, at least for now. Because I have a series of fire animations already. And that was my goal, to kind of focus on one element for some time, for a month or 2 months. I want to make lightning the next one. I think we can find lots of cool lightning references online. And try to steal something in a good way, in an artistic way. You could revisit your bitey lightning. Oh, that's... I'm afraid... afraid to touch this thing. Some of my animations... they are so spread on the internet, like a lot of people saw them. Just like absurd amount of people. And people seem to enjoy them a lot. To me, a lot of them look, well, not bad, but not as good as they used to. But because other people love them so much, I don't want to compare my new animations to them, honestly. Maybe I'm very insecure here, I don't know. But on the last stream, Yegor said that like his favorite animation, or like his favorite effects by me was like Phoenix fire effect that I did years ago. And I think it looks awful today. So I kind of felt bad that, oh, it's like your favorite animation is the one that I did years ago. It kind of like in my head it means that I wasn't able to make anything better throughout these years. Feels great. I think my stream is dead. Am I actually live? Okay. It's stuck on my screen. What I'm doing right now with this yellow line, I missed a bit of the stream. I'm adding secondary color shapes. So on a separate layer, I'm doing something. I think this one looks bad. Let me get rid of it. Yeah, I don't know what's happening with the internet today. Sorry for the hiccups. Not sure if I can change anything to improve the situation. The thing I miss about the S is the fact that in the S I had a gigabit internet and it was freaking awesome. Here, at least in my hometown, we don't have it. Maybe in larger cities it is available. But not where I live. I have no idea what's happening with the stream. Siran, Magic Panic, thanks for visiting. It still shows to me that the stream isn't working, so I have no idea if it works. Okay, thank you. I will have to use you as my indicator. Something hard to find references of is air or dust. Do and you would see typically in anime shockwaves after impacts. Perhaps you could show your process of making air-related animations. Yeah. We can do this sometime. As I said before today, the next theme would be electricity. But I'm planning to stream somewhat constantly, methodically, like every week, 2 times per week. So we probably will get to it at some point. Hey, Danny. Let me try refreshing my page. Okay, yeah, it seems to be working. I guess just my YouTube page was lagging. YouTube was lying to me. You know what I miss? I don't know, just a random thought. Do you remember there was a time where we had cinemas? And you would go and watch movies on a huge screen with other people? Feels like it was ages ago. And I love cinema. Like, there are a lot of downsides. But for me, I don't care. It's such a different experience than watching movies at home. What is a cinema? Yeah, exactly. From the games and projects you have worked on, which was your favorite? I'm most proud of Into the Spider-Verse. The experience of watching a movie that I worked on in a cinema in this place from the past was a unique experience. And the fact that I enjoyed the movie itself probably helped a lot. And I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man. Like, if you look on my ArtStation or like DeviantArt page, I draw Spider-Man a lot. But my current project, the fighting game at Riot Games, I'm super excited about. I'm a fan of fighting games. Being able to make one is a dream come true situation. So am I the only one who misses cinemas? No one likes them? Like, I saw a lot of opinions that Like, people don't need cinemas anymore. And just let them die. Who cares? And I was so offended by it. Like, what do you mean no one cares? I care. And seeing like the cinema industry is somewhat dying is unfortunate and kind of scary. That what if they will just disappear, you know? Everyone will be just watching Netflix or Disney Plus. Considering like a lot of new movies are releasing on the streaming services at the same time. What if people want to go back after this? I applied to work on Riot's fighting game, but they wanted me to relocate to them and I couldn't. Do you do VFX? I feel like don't only go to cinema for specific movies like 17 movie, something like 1917. I like watching movies in the cinema in general. But I see what you're saying, like some movies are designed for cinemas. Like they need a big screen, a huge sound system. Can you send me a message on Twitter, Travis? Just ping me. Say hi. I like Netflix and online cinemas in general, but offline ones are different. It is like just another thing, another experience. Would be cool to have both. I agree, I totally agree. Going to a cinema is just a different thing. You can have both. Also, it's social. I watched Lord of the Rings Director's Cut multiple times at home, but the one that I remember is when I went to a cinema, like to a Lord of the Rings event, and in a huge theater in Moscow with hundreds of people. We watched it again, like the movie that I already watched multiple times, and it was amazing. What do you think about the Hobbit, the movies? Don't like them. Have you seen the director's cut? Like, I like Lord of the Rings way better myself, but director's cut improves The Hobbit a lot, in my opinion. I really dislike the Hobbit movies from what I saw. Yeah, I was like, when I watched it in cinema, I was like super grumpy, complaining throughout the whole movie. I then rewatched it at home, like after some time, not immediately, but when the director's cut came out. And I think it was way better. It's still not a Lord of the Rings, it's something different. But I would say that when I watched it in the cinema, I strongly disliked it. And when I rewatched it at home, I enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but I thought it was fun. Just picked up the extended editions of all 6 movies this morning, starting the marathon this weekend. Awesome. Sounds like a great time. I think like with Lord of the Rings, there are extended editions and director's cut. Like these are different things. I'm not too sure. Honestly, I don't know what I watched. Was it director's cut or extended editions? I'm not sure. There's so much more work ahead. So many frames. The Hobbit movie didn't meet my expectations, is what I will say. Yeah, same here. But what I learned is sometimes your expectations, or like my expectations, can ruin something for me. And then when I watched the movie for the second time with no expectations, it was way better. So with Star Wars, when I watched episode 8, I was heartbroken because I hated this movie. Episode 9, even though it was, in my opinion, a terrible movie, I had so much fun because I wasn't expecting to get a great movie already. So I was just enjoying how bad it was. And it was a fun experience. Is it weird how few fantasy movies are there? Like fantasy in video games, like orcs, elves, all this kind of stuff, is super common. But in films, you don't get them as much. I'm wondering why is that? There are some shows but with feature movies, it feels like there are very few of them. I believe I saw an announcement of Dungeons and Dragons TV show, which sounds cool and is what I want to see, like generic fantasy. Like in video games, we're kind of tired of this setting, but I want to see it in on the screen. Yeah, also Lord of the Rings series. Yeah, I'm excited to check it out. I wish it was like a feature movie though. Are there any upcoming movies that you guys are looking forward to? I guess with the pandemic, a lot of movies are delayed, and it seems like there's not a lot of upcoming movies overall. Maybe there's still something? I saw a Godzilla vs. King Kong trailer. That's something. Can't say I'm super excited about it. I'm a huge fan of Godzilla, but mostly the Japanese movies. I kind of like the first Godzilla movie, from the recent series, the American one in 2014, maybe. King Kong was so boring, so I kind of don't have any expectations for Godzilla vs. King Kong. And Godzilla 2, I didn't like it. I don't know. I think it to me it missed the point of what's cool about Godzilla. But for some reason I'm still... It's like with Star Wars. Like when you're a fan of something, whatever they make with this brand, I'm still interested. So I'm cautiously curious about a new Godzilla movie. I'm excited about the Ahsoka show. How do you pronounce it in English? Like in Russian, it's Ahsoka. Is it Ahsoka as well, right? Yeah, for some reason I don't really care. I saw Mandalorian and I didn't like it at all. So in my head I kind of disappointed already in Star Wars shows. I'm waiting for the Dune 2. Yeah, 2. I have no idea. Like, I don't know anything about Dune. I played the game, a strategy game on Sega Genesis. I tried watching movies, or a movie. I don't know if there are many of them or just one. It didn't catch my attention. I don't know. I was bored. But I like the director of the new Dune. And I'm expecting to be at least visually pleased. I would like more full-length animated video game movies. Like feature movies based on video games and animated. Are there any movies like this? Usually they try to make a movie like live with live actors. I watched Clone Wars and Rebels. I love these shows. Well, Clone Wars a bit more than Rebels. I just don't care that much about the live adaptations. But I love Ahsoka. I think she's a great character. One of the best Star Wars characters. It just the way Mandalorian was for me. I don't know why people like... I like animation way more than real life shows. I'm pretty sure I will still take a look. Because it's Star Wars. What did I do? I did something. Okay. The old Dune movie wasn't good. The director who did the original actually hates it because he felt like he did a disservice to the book. He was sad because the technology wasn't available at the time to make it as good as he wanted. New one is supposed to be way better. Cool. Yeah, sounds good. It's the same director who did the last Blade Runner, right? I think that movie looked gorgeous. It was very slow-paced movie, but it just put me in this melancholic state of where I just sit there and appreciated the visuals, the landscapes, the colors. I don't remember that much of the story of the movie, but aesthetically I really enjoyed it. I guess none of you are fans of Japanese Godzilla movies, right? Since no one reacted. It's so rare to find someone who likes them. The old Godzilla? Yeah, I think the most recent one, Japanese, the most recent Japanese one was in 2016 or 18, Shin Godzilla. So, like, it's not all of them are old. Like, there are movies from 2000s. Haven't seen any of them. I can't really recommend any of them because they're so weird, and you never know if people will enjoy them or not. I guess I would recommend Shin Godzilla, the most recent one. I think it's a good movie, just in general, not just good Godzilla movie. And it's the most serious one. It's also super weird. And I think that's what I like about them. Like, they're just weird. But yeah, I like the very last one and the ones from the 90s. There are multiple eras of Godzilla movies. All of them with different tone and vibes. The one from the 70s are kind of like super silly, and they were focusing on making the Godzilla appealing for children. And that's usually where all the memes come from. The goofy ones. Yeah, I mean the original Godzilla, the Japanese version. I mean, I watched almost all of them. There are like more than 20 of them probably. The very first one is from 54, like super old black and white version. I watched it too. I think it's great. The original, the very first one is a serious movie. It's not just like silly blockbuster. It's quite depressing, has very serious tone to it. Then there are a lot of, after that, there are a lot of sequels that are more silly. And then the series got rebooted 2 or 3 times. And that's what I meant by like different eras of Godzilla movies. The very last one is once again a reboot, and it's a serious movie compared to, like, similar to the original, the very first one. And when you watch it, it looks a bit absurd at first. But that's kind of because the director had a very specific idea in mind, that it's a critic of like Japanese bureaucracy and government structures, that everything is revolving around this paperwork and everything is super slow and people are spending time talking to each other in the offices versus actually doing things. And a lot of the movie is a lot of talking in the offices about weird things, like very kind of like boring dialogues. But that's kind of the point of the movie, because it gets, in my opinion, to the like absurd levels of bureaucracy and dialogues, where at some point you start to understand, okay, that's kind of makes sense now. And the Godzilla itself, it's so weird. I believe the movie was made by the director of Evangelion. And there are some epic action scenes as well. In the 80s it got more serious, right? Yeah, kind of. It's like 80s, 90s. It's still like an entertaining movie. The goal is to entertain. But it's less goofy. I won't really call it serious. It still has a goal to show you like epic monster fights. That's pretty much it in the 80s and 90s. But no like goofy stuff. I want to watch Godzilla now. To me, it's also a lot of cool practical effects. I think if I was born like 20 years earlier, it would be cool to work in a movie industry as a practical VFX guy. Like making real monsters, puppets, animatronics. Sounds like a lot of fun. And these skills are not really needed anymore with the CGI. Which is fine. But it sounds like a fun time, fun job to do. I remember all the toys in the 90s. We probably had different toys. Although we had a lot of US toys in Russia. So maybe not that different. Okay, let's see how this looks. It's so freaking fast. You almost don't care if it's there or not. But I think it adds something. I think like as long as it doesn't bother you, I mean the secondary animation, the like brighter yellow colors, it means that it's working, right? I think like the goal of the secondary colors is to enhance and reinforce the feeling of the main silhouette. So you don't want to add like new main motions, you know? They are roughly following the main silhouette. Just don't want to create like extra noise. That's definitely not the goal. I'll remove this tiny part. I think it's unnecessary. And like speaking of enhancing and reinforcing the main silhouette, we can use secondary color to, let's say here, we have this build-up of energy and then the release. And what we can do with our secondary color, because it's brighter, we can cover most of the main silhouette with this brighter color as well to once again reinforce this idea of energy building up. So at this point, the shape is mostly secondary color. So we can balance the amount of secondary shapes, like the balance between brighter shapes and darker shapes. It doesn't have to be like constant throughout the animation. In some frames, some moments we can have it like 70% dark, 30% bright. And then we can switch it up with purpose. Oh, we've been streaming for 3 hours now. I guess that might be a good point to end today's stream. We made some progress. It might seem like not a lot, but that's, I guess, how the animation works. Like, you spend not a lot of time on building the main shapes and the motion, and it feels like the most progress is done at the very beginning, and then you spend 80% of your time making, like, finishing the 20% of the work. But that's how it is. I think the final shapes are a bit too noisy and unfocused. Like, I like this part of the animation the most. The beginning and this burst forward. These parts, I think, are a bit too overcomplicated. What if I just get rid of this whole color? I said that I'm ending the stream, but I'm still continuing. I'm a liar. What you gonna do? I think it improved it a bit. this hole was unnecessary, just created some unnecessary noise. Thanks, Jester Animation. Anyways, thanks to everyone for visiting, chatting, and watching. I hope you had a good time. I definitely had a great time myself. Finally streaming for the, well, I guess for the second time this year. But the first stream was with Jason. This is my very first my own stream, and it's cool to be back. I hope we can finish this animation on the next stream, so we're done with it and we can move on to something new, electricity. And I think I already mentioned this before on my streams. When I try to make something complex on streams, it takes a long time. Like making a tiny, quick animation where I can actually finish it in one or max like 2 streams. I think it's, in my opinion, it works a bit better, and even like for viewers, I assume it's a bit more interesting to see something new rather than watching the same animation for like 3 or 4 streams. So I guess the next animation after this one, I'll try to make something less complex, just to keep it different. But the next stream will be this Saturday, same time as today. For further info, follow me on Twitter, follow me on YouTube if you're not following me yet. I will be streaming 2 times a week, every week, doing something similar to what I was doing today. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.